What's going on, family? Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. This is part 2 of my Madison Square Garden boxing insert. Every last fighter that has ever faced another man in Madison Square Garden is in this scrapbook. It's over 100 pages. It's actually 200 pages when you include front and back. But it's every single fighter. My dad and I made sure we didn't leave anybody out that ever stepped foot in Madison Square Garden with a pair of gloves. And it's very special and sentimental to me because I built it together with my father, as I did with all of my scrapbooks. He's no longer here with me, and I think about him every day. But this is my way of looking up at him and letting him know that I remember him when I share these videos with you. So please show respect to my videos and show some appreciation. I would appreciate it because you're respecting my dad as well. We're going to be covering 2 fighters at a time. So this is part 2. Make sure you check out part 1 first. Let's take a look. So I want to cover these 2 fighters. Before I do, I just want to put in one footnote. Every time I take out these books, there's a chance of them getting nicked or ripped or falling out of my hand because they're piled up all the way to the ceiling. I have over 1,000 scrapbooks. I have 950 that weigh 50 pounds apiece, 50 pounds apiece. And I'm doing this because I'm trying to educate the viewing public. I have that much respect for the game of boxing and the fighters that I am covering. My dad knew a lot of these guys, and my granddad knew a lot of these guys that I'm showing you personally. They have spoken to them the way you speak to your own friend. So they mean a lot to them, and so they mean a lot to me as well. So right now we're looking at Dan Buck Cerrone, and he was a very good fighter. Dan Buck Cerrone was called the Butcher Boy. He was a heavyweight that stood 6 foot 2 inches. He was born December 3rd, 1927 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He died April 16, 2008. He was 80 years of age at the time of his death. I met him personally, myself. He won a Golden Gloves in Chicago. He was a light heavyweight. He won by knockout. He also won an inner city Chicago Golden Gloves. He was on a team. And he had a fighting career record of 50, 34, 6, and 2. He was stopped 2 times. Fought a fighter by the name of Roland Estrada twice. Lost him once and defeated him once. Fought Aaron Wilson, another good fighter. Defeated him. Dave Davey at the St. Nicholas Arena. Defeated him. Tommy Hurricane Jackson. He defeated Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Tommy Hurricane Jackson was ranked number 1 in 1956. He got his title shot against Floyd Patterson. I had covered that story with you. He faced Rocky Jones. Rocky Jones was a good fighter. Defeated him twice. Bobby Murphy. They called him Irish Bob Murphy. He lost to him. Jimmy Slade. He was another Floyd Patterson opponent. Defeated Jimmy Slade. He was also in the ring with Cesar Beyond. Defeated him. Very good fighter was Dan Buck Cerrone. Good fighter. Next fight I want to cover is Billy Arnold. Now, once again, every time I do this is at the top of the head. I don't read anything. I don't need to do that. If I misspell or mispronounce a name, please understand and forgive me for that. But this is just my style. I just go at the top of the head. It's more fun that way. Billy Arnold was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was born September 21st, 1926, and he died May 18th, 1995. He fought from 1943 to 1948. He had total bouts of 51, total fights, 41 wins, 34 knockouts. He lost to 4 opponents. And he was stopped 5 times. Fought Fitzy Zivik. Fitzy Zivik was a welterweight champion in 1940 when he defeated Henry Armstrong. Fought him January 5th, 1945. Billy Arnold fought Fitzy Zivik January 5th, 1945 in Madison Square Garden. He would lose to him. He also faced Ernest the Cat Robinson, another decent fighter. Fought him October 23rd, 1944 at St. Nicholas Arena. And he fought Rocky Graziano. Fought him March 1945 in Madison Square Garden. The fight with Rocky Graziano was very important for Graziano. That showed everyone that Graziano was for real because Billy Arnold was some tough Philadelphia fighter. And he was known every once in a while for taking a dive here and there, but Rocky Graziano showed what he was truly made of. Rocky Graziano, one of the greatest right hands in the middleweight division of all times. He could punch. So I just wanted to salute these 2 fighters. Next 2 fighters, Marcel Sedan and Rex Lane. Now, Marcel Sedan was born July 22nd, 1916 in Algeria. He fought from 1934 to 1949. He unfortunately died in a plane crash accident. He was on his way back to re-signing a contract with Jake LaMotta. Now, he stood 5 foot 8 inches with a middleweight. He was a champion September 21st, 1948 to June 16th, 1949, when he defeated Tony Zale. He defeated him in Rosewood Stadium, New Jersey. It was Jersey City, New Jersey. And he fought Jake LaMotta in Big Stadium in Detroit, Michigan. Now, the thing with Tony Zale, he was knocked out, and he was draped against the ropes. It was a referee by the name of Paul Cavalier who trained me. And he was a referee for that fight. He explained to me about that fight. I learned a lot about that fight through Paul Cavalier, who's the referee for that fight. And what happened with Tony Zale, he was supposed to face Charlie Burley, but he fought Marcel Sedan instead, and it's not a cherry pick. Marcel Sedan is an outstanding fighter, but it was a I don't want to say duck, but it was one of them situations where he decided to face Marcel Sedan over who he should have faced, Charlie Burley, and he got knocked out. And that's what happened to Tony Zale. And Marcel Sedan didn't come out of the 10th round, of Jake LaMotta fight due to a shoulder injury, and that was the end of that for him. So that's a Marcel Sedan, but he was a very good fighter from Casablanca. He was originally from Algeria. Rex Lane was some fighter also. He faced Dale Hall. He had total fights of 70 bouts, 50 wins, 34 knockouts, 17 losses, and he was stopped 6 times. He was born June 7, 1928 in Lewiston, Utah. He died April 7, 2000, with 72 years of age at the time of his death. He was in a ring with Willie Beam, Bob Baker, Ezzard Charles. Fought Ezzard Charles 3 times, lost to him twice, and he defeated him 1 time. He was also in a ring with Andy D. Walker. He had a draw with Andy Walker. He was in a ring with Chuck Woodworth, defeating him. Tommy Hurricane Jackson, he lost to him. Roland Estrada, a very good fighter, defeated him in, actually he lost to Roland Estrada in Cincinnati, Ohio. He faced Rocky Marciano July 12, 1951. And he would be stopped by Rocky Marciano. He faced Bob Satterfield, defeated him. Joe Walcott, defeated him. That's Jersey Joe Walcott. He faced Lloyd Gibson, defeated him. Turkey Thompson, defeated him. So it's just few opponents that Rex Lane was in the ring with. So salute to those 2 fighters. And they all fought in Madison Square Garden. And I want to quickly apologize to you in the last video. I had to take care of some business, so I had to end that video, and I kind of rushed the end of it, so I apologize for that. I'm not sure how much time I have on this particular video as well, so I may have to do a part 2 to this video. So Tommy Bell. Tommy Bell was from Ohio, and he was a very good fighter as well. He was born March 9th, 1923 in Noonan, Georgia, and then he would eventually move to Youngstown, Ohio. And unfortunately for him, he died July 14th, 1994. He had a brother by the name of Bobby Bell. It was actually 3 brothers. But Bobby Bell was a featherweight, and Tommy Bell was a welterweight. He was in the ring with Maxie Berger, defeated him. Chuck Hunter defeated him. B.B. Wright, he had a draw with him. And he fought from 1942 to 1951. He stood 5 foot 7 inches. He was a welterweight. He had total fights of 87 fights. 53 wins, 32 knockouts, 29 losses, and he was stopped 7 times. He fought Jake LaMotta March 14th, 1947 at Madison Square Garden, and he would lose to him. Now, he was in the ring with Jake LaMotta quite a few times. He was also in the ring with Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson defeated him 2 times. But he was in the ring December 20th, 1946 at Madison Square Garden, and Ray Robinson would defeat Tommy Bell. Tommy Bell was ranked number 7, Ray Robinson ranked number 1. And he would lose to Ray Robinson. That was for the NBA Welterweight Championship belt. Marty Servo had that belt, and he relinquished it after the war. And he fought California Jackie Wilson. He defeated him 2 times. If my memory serves correctly. He was in the ring with Steve Belois. Steve Belois was a contender. His brother Mike Belois was a champion. But he lost to Steve Belois. He defeated Cecil Hudson. He lost to him twice and defeated him once. He was in a ring with Ozzie Bulldog Harris. He was from Pittsburgh, and he lost to him. Fritzy Zivik, he defeated him. Fritzy Zivik, as I said, he had 5 brothers, and he was a welterweight champion when he defeated Henry Armstrong in 1940. Then he defeated him again in 1941. Tommy Bell also faced Pierre Langlois, lost to him. Freddie Dawson, fought him in Chicago. He fought Tony Riccio. He won one and lost one. And he also fought Otis Graham. Otis Graham was a good fighter. So that is Tommy Bell. Ali Stoltz. Ali Stoltz was from Brooklyn, New York. He was born September 2nd, 1918 in Brooklyn, New York. Then he moved to Hoboken, New Jersey. And he was in the ring with Speedy Scalzo. Speedy Scalzo was a good fighter. Defeated him in Madison Square Garden. Chalky Wright. Chalky Wright was a very, very good fighter. He really was. I fought him in Madison Square Garden, and he defeated him. He was in the ring with Sammy Engot. Sammy Engot, another good fighter. Sammy Engot was actually champion in 1942. He defeated Lucius Slugger White. And he was a very good fighter, was Sammy Engot. Bobby Ruffin fought him 3 times. Defeated him once and lost to him twice. February 22nd, 1942. He fought Tippy Larkin, lost to him in Madison Square Garden. Willie Pep lost to him in Madison Square Garden. He faced Bojack, lightweight champion, Augusta, Georgia. He lost to him November 13th, 1942. He was in the ring with Willie Joyce, February 15th, 1946, and he lost to him Madison Square Garden. Bob Montgomery lost to him in Madison Square Garden, June 28th, 1946. So that's just a brief description of Ali Stoltz. I don't want to go too deep into these fighters. I'm trying to move it on. But these are 2 fighters that fought in Madison Square Garden. 2 dynamic fighters. One from Ohio and the other one was from Jersey. All right, next 2 fighters we're looking at is Archie Moore, the old mongoose, and Artie Levine. Artie Levine was a dynamic fighter from Brooklyn. Let's take a look at Archie Moore. He was the old mongoose. His name was Archibald Lee Wright. Now, his record is all over the place as well. But he was born December 13th, 1916 in Bennett, Mississippi. He also, there's rumors that he was born in St. Louis, Missouri as well, with Armstrong. And, Archie Moore's record has always been all over the place, his age and everything else. But he had total bouts of 220 fights, 186 wins, 132 knockouts, 23 losses, and he was stopped 7 times, I believe. I believe it was 7 times. He stood 5'11" and he had a 75-inch reach. He was in the ring with Charlie Doc Williams, very good fighter. He defeated him. Fought him actually twice. Ezzard Charles, outstanding fighter. Was Ezzard Charles, his story by now. Began his career in 1940, and he stopped in 1954 with the last big fight he fought was with Rocky Marciano, going blank today. He fought Oakland Billy Smith. Oakland Billy Smith was the California light heavyweight champion. He was in the ring with Jimmy Bivens. He beat Burt Littell, defeated him. Alabama Kid, Bob Satterfield, Burt Littell. He fought him at the Sports Arena. He fought Muhammad Ali, Rocky Marciano, Floyd Patterson. Matter of fact, that's how he lost the heavyweight championship opportunity with Floyd Patterson in 1956. And he also fought Muhammad Ali for the heavyweight championship belt as well, and he lost that opportunity. Matt Rademacher, Von Durrell, Buddy Walker, Holman Williams, Lloyd Marshall, Charlie Burley, he lost to him. Legion Stadium in Hollywood, April 21st, 1944. That's when he fought Charlie Burley. Freddie Dixon had a draw with him. Sammy Slaughter, Howard King. I'm trying to think of these guys quickly at the top of my head. Charlie Norkus, very good heavyweight. Burt Walcott, Whitehurst, Eddie Cotton, and Willie Pastrana. I believe he fought Willie Pastrana. Willie Pastrana wound up becoming a light heavyweight champion, and he would face Jose Torres. So that's just the gist on Archie Moore. Artie Levine from Brooklyn, New York. He was from Cleveland, Ohio, and he would move to Brooklyn. He was a middleweight in 1941 and 1949, the years that he fought. He was born January 26, 1925, and he stood 5'8". He was a middleweight. He had total fights of 72 total fights. I'm sure that's right. He won 53 of those fights, 15 losses, and he was stopped 4 times. He fought Freddie Flores, Billy Fox, Sonny Horn, Jimmy Doyle, Sugar Ray Robinson. Fought Sugar Ray Robinson on November 6, 1946 in Cleveland Arena. And the controversy in that fight was Ray Robinson was knocked out for 20 count, and they had to revive him. And he made the count, and so the fight continued, and he would eventually stop Artie Levine. That's the story. He was in the ring with Gene Johnson as well. So Artie Levine was a very good fighter. Salute to these two fighters that also fought in Madison Square Garden. These two fighters here, Tony Fallone and Jersey Joe Walcott. Tony Fallone was some fighter. He was short for his weight division. And he had a little bit of a limp to him. And he ran numbers for the mob, but he was a very good fighter. He fought from 1943 to 1952. October 27th, 1927 is when he was born. Lower East Side of Manhattan. That's where he had a lot of great Italian fighters and Jewish fighters. He fought a fighter by the name of Lester Felton. Charlie Fusari, Billy Graham fought him twice in Madison Square Garden. Joe Maselli, Vince Foster, Patty Young, Kid Gavilan, Ike Williams, Bob Montgomery, Tony Gennaro fought him twice in Madison Square Garden. He lost to him once and he defeated him once. Chuck Taylor, another good fighter. Lulu Castellano, Cleo Shane, Maxie Shapiro. Maxie Shapiro was in a ring with 7 different champions. I had a good friend by the name of Teddy who trained Maxie Shapiro. And I actually met Maxie Shapiro, a very good, very nice person. Jose Torres. Jose Torres wound up becoming light heavyweight champion. Now, Tony Fallone had a fighting career record of 55 total fights. And he won 51, 19 losses. He had, I think, 10 knockouts, and he had 6 draws. I believe I got that record correct. Or he might have had 76 fights. I'm not too sure. But that's the way it is when you're doing this at the top of your head. So that's Tony Fallone. Jersey Joe Walcott fought from 1930 to 1953. His name was Ronald Raymond Creed. Arnold Raymond Creed was his name. And he fought from... When did he fight? I think his first fight was in the 1930s, I believe. And he was born January 31st, 1914 in Pennsauken, New Jersey. He moved to Camden, New Jersey. He was 6 foot and he had a 74-inch reach. He had total bouts of 71 fights, 50 losses, 31 knockouts. He was stopped 6 times and he had 20 losses. His first fight was against a fighter by the name of Eddie Wallace. And he fought Tiger Jack Fox, Elmer Ray, R. Psyche, Roy Laser, very good Jewish heavyweight, Lee Omer, Lee Q. Murray, Curtis Shepard, call him Curtis the Hatchet Shepard, Joey Maxim, he lost to him twice. Ezard Charles defeated him twice, and he lost to him twice. Matter of fact, he would lose. Here's the situation with Ezard Charles and Jersey Joe Walcott. Ezard Charles would defeat Jersey Joe Walcott in 1949 for the NBA version of the heavyweight championship belt. In order for Ezard Charles to be considered heavyweight champion, he had to face Joe Louis, who was retired. So he pulled Joe Louis out of retirement in 1950. He defeated Joe Louis in 15 rounds and solidified himself as heavyweight champion. And then he would face Jersey Joe Walcott in 1951, and he'd be knocked out with a bodacious left hook, and Jersey Joe Walcott would win the heavyweight championship belt. Quite a history between these two men. He would face Rocky Marciano. He would lose his belt to Rocky Marciano, and then he would face Rocky Marciano in a return bout and get knocked out in the first round. So he lost twice to Rocky Marciano. Abe Simon, he was in a ring with. Abe Simon was an opponent of Joe Louis. He was in a ring with Phil Johnson. Matter of fact, Phil Johnson was Hal Johnson's father, and Phil Johnson and Hal Johnson was knocked out by Jersey Joe Walcott, both in the temple, on the top of the head, and in the third round. Incredible. He was also in the ring with Al Latour, who was also a Jewish heavyweight, and he was in the ring with Joe Louis. So Jersey Joe Walcott was some fighter, and he was also an opponent for fighters and 4 fighters in Madison Square Garden. All right, now we're looking at Roland Estrada from the Bronx, New York. And we're looking at Billy Fox. They call him the Blackjack Billy Fox. Now, Roland Estrada was a very, very good heavyweight. He fought out of the Bronx, New York. He fought from 1947 to 1961. He was born May 12th, 1927, and he died September 30th, 2009. Excuse me. Boy, his first fight was with Dave Glaston. And he was 37-0 when he fought Rocky Marciano on March 24th, 1950. And it was the fight of the year. It was a great fight at Madison Square Garden. I believe that Roland Estrada won the fight. He was ahead on a few points when I looked at the fight. My dad was at the fight, and he told me that he felt Roland Estrada won the fight. And I've been covering boxing as far as researching it for a long time. I've spoken to historians that's not around anymore. They were 80 years old when I was like 13. And they have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fights. And Rocky Marciano was a very good fighter. He was an outstanding fighter as far as his style. But Roland Estrada was a better fighter than he was, technical fighter. The issue with Roland Estrada, and I'll say it to him blue in the face, Roland Estrada's issue was the adjustment to a style of a Rocky Marciano. Roland Estrada had a lot of heart, he had a lot of courage, he had a lot of technical skills. But the adjustment, and it wasn't easy. Rocky Marciano was undefeated. It wasn't easy to make that kind of an adjustment. That was the only issue with Roland Estrada in a fight with Rocky Marciano. But Roland Estrada was a very good fighter. He defeated Rocky Marciano as far as I'm concerned and as far as my dad's concerned and a lot of historians that I spoke with is concerned. The second fight, Rocky Marciano got dirty on Roland Estrada in their second fight. And